lots of issues definitely to be discussed on the terrestrial area, but the problem, of course, is not limited to land. And the Philippines is an archipelago, has a long coastline. You've actually became involved in their environment, working on our coral reefs and coastal areas before you got involved with Haribon.
Yes, I was part of a team that would assess the MPAs, the marine protected areas.
Yeah, so tell us, you know, how you became involved in some of the, I suppose the the conservation, the preservation work. What is the issue that you noticed? I think you were a diver at one time.
I am a diver. Okay. I'm a technical diver. And I also, well, first of all, I was a photographer. Okay. Then I went into diving. Okay. I said, I'm not going to touch a camera underwater camera, until after a year of diving.
Okay.
So when I started taking pictures, that's when it really like hit me.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a very big problem with our coral reefs. 2017, there was a study, there was a report that was given by DOST that only 2% of our coral reefs are in good and healthy condition. Only 2%.
Wow.
Considering that we're an archipelago.
Okay.
Considering that we're surrounded by water.
Considering that fishing is such a big industry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if the coral reefs die, the fishermen will lose their capacity to earn.
Right.
And that will be another problem.
Right.
Diba?
Right. They go farther out to sea and risk their lives in open waters. And
yes. And the thing is, our waters are so rich. That's why the other countries are going to us.
Right. So what's the problem? I mean, in the past, I've been hearing about destructive fishing methods.
Yes.
Is fishing an extractive industry? I mean, how would you define it? And what again? I guess how do we make it responsible and sustainable?
Fishing can be a destructive industry, just the same thing as you were talking about a while ago. Yeah, there has to be done responsibly. So there's this method called trawling.
Yes.
Where they just like, it's like mowing the lawn. I mean, they put a device underwater and it just starts...
Destroys everything.
Exactly, everything. There's a lot of bycatch. So a lot of the coral die.
Okay.
And then when the corals die, when you destroy the corals, it's like destroying a city.
Okay.
So when you destroy the city of fish, they have nowhere to live.
Okay.
So again, that ecosystem, that cycle of life gets bothered, and there's an imbalance, and Mother Nature is going to get angry at us.
Right, but how prevalent is this in the Philippines, given the fact that, you know, most of the fishermen that we see, at least from the news and you know, when you drive by coastal towns, they're in small outriggers, mga bangka, di ba?
Marami dyan dynamite fishing pa rin eh.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And ano, they're very brave, ha?
Okay.
Like, for example, I was diving in Malacapascua some years ago, and that's where the thresher sharks are.
Okay.
We were there, we could hear it.
Oh, wow.
It's not supposed to happen in Malapascua because it's a protected area because of the sharks.
Right.
But you could hear it happening.
But I was going to ask you also, there is a geopolitical component to this. You know, in the news, of course, the president just came back from ASEAN. They're talking about code of conduct for the West Philippine Sea or the South China Sea. And of course, the issue here is allowing our fishermen to fish, but there are also fishermen with bigger boats. Are they the ones doing the trawling that you're talking about, or is it both our fishermen and foreigners? What's going on?
It's mostly foreign.
Okay.
And to top it all off, yung mga local naman, they were able to convince LGUs that they'll be allowed to fish in municipal waters, which is closer to the island.
Oh, okay.
Right? Why? I mean,
shouldn't that be preserved for?
Yes, exactly, for the small-time fishermen and for the communities there, and the indigenous people.
Yeah.
But no, there is a threat.
What do you think? You know, what kind of discussion should happen? I know this is a very complicated issue. You know, not even heads of government are able to resolve this. But what are some of the things that they should be talking about? Because obviously, if one country or one group of people destroy it, then it's destroyed for everyone else in the region, right? I mean, we're talking about the West Philippine Sea here. You know, what needs to be discussed?
I think what needs to be discussed is what's your end goal.
Okay.
And the end goal should always be environment first.
Okay.
Because when you prioritize the environment, the people benefit.
Right.
But they don't see it that way.
Okay. Now, one of the other things that they're talking about in this area, besides fishing, is oil exploration. I mean, of course, this is not, agreed to yet, but there's always that discussion that there are resources there, I suppose, like mining on land. There's now resources that can be extracted from the seabed. Okay, fine, there's something that can be exploited. What are the things that need to be taken into consideration so that it's responsible and sustainable?
Oh, that's a very hard hard issue, because
should it even be considered, given the fragility of the, as you said, I mean, in the Philippines, there are only 2% of the corals that are healthy. Is it even a worthwhile discussion to have? Is it attractive enough to risk what's remaining in the coral reefs?
In my opinion, my opinion as an advocate for the environment, no. It's
Okay.
not, because precisely there's only 2% of the coral reefs that are healthy in our country.
Okay.
So I think we should work on restoring those ecosystems, the coral reefs again, and then maybe we can think about it.
Right.
Yeah,
Well, China might say, well, that's 2% in your area, but they're claiming 90% of the entire South China Sea. They say it's ours anyway. But the thing is, it affects everyone, doesn't it?
It does. Like, di ba, I was talking to you about going back to ecosystems, right?
Yeah.
So a small ecosystem, let's say in front of my house in Anilao, let's say I have a house in Anilao, that can actually affect the health of that ecosystem in front of my house, can affect barangays away,
Wow.
kilometers away from my house.
Wow.
The same thing with urban parks, like Ayala Labang Village, we have 13 parks there. Those 13 parks within that 5 hectares affects and helps the ecosystem all the way to Pasig,
Right.
all the way to Makati. So, yeah, I wouldn't even consider it.
Are coral reefs the only thing we should be considering? Because I heard also, I've been reading a lot lately about mangroves, and I heard that the Philippines has more indigenous species of mangroves in the country than are found elsewhere in the world. Is that true? I mean, and how important
true.
are they?
That's true, because mangroves are they clean, they're filters.
Are they like, in a sense, do they serve a similar purpose to corals that, or
Similar.
but different?
Different.
Okay.
Because similar but different. Mangroves kasi purify water.
Okay.
Yeah, so when they purify the water, it helps also with us, with our resource. We need water.
Okay.
Yeah. And then it also is it's a habitat
Okay.
for birds, for insects, for fish.
Right.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's important. Mangroves are it's crucial.
Does it help out fishing, coastal fishing? I mean,
Yes.
Does that compensate for the loss of the corals to have a healthy mangrove forest, or do you really have to have
You
both?
have to have both.
Okay.
Yes, it's like I said, it's like a machine.
Yeah.
If
Again,
one-
biodiversity. Yeah, the ecosystem. Yeah?
Yes, that's right.
Right. But what do you say that there's this drive of some people to develop coastal areas for tourism, and there's nothing wrong with that. It does generate a lot of economic activity, but sometimes it's at the expense of maybe clearing mangrove patches. Or again, is there a better way? I mean, have you heard of any other tourism projects that's been able to marry, both the nature and the tourism aspect?
That can be done.
Okay.
It can be done. Like, for instance, in Cagayan Silio, well, it's remote, but it's being done there. Cagayan Silio is actually where Tubataha is.
Oh, okay.
Diba? So, they started with Tubataha, and then later on from the other islands, they requested, can we protect Kawili, can we protect Cagayan Silio proper, can we protect Lanusa, sunod-sunod na. And then after the 16 years, they experienced an abundance of catch.
Wow.
Yes.
So it's something that our local leaders and policymakers should look at these.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
And I also remember in California, in Southern California, I love using this example to our people in Haribon.
Right.
Southern California, there was a real estate developer who wanted to build more than 10,000 houses along the wetlands.
Okay.
So environmentalists, not picketed, they sat with them.
Okay.
They sat with them and had an agreement. We can do this.
Okay.
We should approach it this way.
Right.
So they lowered it to like 2,000, and the environmentalists were not happy. They lowered it some more to like below 1,000.
Right.
And the nice thing that happened there was that the brown pelicans and the birds who lived there,
they came back. Huh?
they're able to stay there, and they were able to make man and nature live together. It increased the real estate value of the houses kasi mas konti.
Wow.
And then to top it all off, what another nice result from this is that movement created policies for future real estate developments in wetlands.
Wow.
Yes.
Oh, how do we change that image? You know, I suppose that when people look at mangroves, they think, ay, sayang, di ba? It needs to be developed. I mean, how can we change that mindset that it's actually economically valuable?
We can change the mindset by teaching people about the value of the environment. It should actually be taught in school. Yes.
Part of the program.
Correct. And we did that already in the LGU in Quezon. One of our projects there, developing leaders for biodiversity, created modules so that it can be included into the mainstream.
Well, hopefully those who are looking at EdCom 2 and reforming the education system will be watching this and maybe take that into consideration. We'll be right back with Business and Politics. We're talking to Ms. Varona of Haribon Foundation.